Hey, my name is Maria. So today I thought I would show you how I curl my hair, which is super exciting. I have very straight hair and for years and years it just wouldn't hold a curl at all. So over the years I have established a routine of how I can get my hair to be curled and look kind of natural and stay that way for longer than an hour. So you only need three things: a hairbrush, some hairspray, which you can use any hairspray to be honest. This is Tresemme Extra Hold. Again, doesn't make a difference. And the last ingredient, I suppose, is a hair curler. I prefer kind of a narrow wand because I feel like it gives me a nice tight curl, but you know yourself what kind of wand shape suits your hair. So step one, brush your hair. Of course, the only brush I managed to find is this teeny tiny little dinky brush. My hair is super long at the moment. You can barely see the ends of it. And that's for good reason, because the ends of my hair are very dead. I'm in desperate need of a trim. But these days, like, to get your hair cut is so expensive. It's literally €65. I'm like this close to buying a scissors and just doing it myself. But I know that would be a disaster, so I'm not gonna go there. And next, I sort of like to tie back some of my hair, and I try and put it in like kind of a loose bun or a loose ponytail so that I can pull strands out as I'm doing it. Okay, so I'm using the Babyless curler. By the way, if you see me looking over here, it's because that's where the mirror is. Okay, I'm new to this, be easy on me. Get your curler, turn it on. That's a great first step. Here's another key tip that I learned from a hairstylist. Never put the heat on your curler up higher than 160 degrees. I used to put my curler up so high, and apparently you shouldn't do that. Apparently that's really bad. So you actually don't need it to be that hot, at least for my hair type anyway. And it might depend on your hair type. You know yourself what suits you, but you'll be surprised what actually gets done with 160 degrees. Section off a bit of your hair. Now this is something that I feel like contributes to it staying in for a long time, is using small sections of your hair. I'm convinced that the tighter the curl, the longer it will stay in. Again, there's no science behind this. This is just my own trial and error, so just trust me. Or don't, whatever. Section off your hair. I would take probably this much. Also, can we just appreciate the colour difference? I'm a pale girl. Get your curler. I like to angle mine down when I'm at the front. This is another tip. When you're at the front of your hair, you sort of want it to look windswept almost. So you want these bits to go kind of like that. Do you get me? You don't really want it coming in like this. You want it to go outwards. So therefore, I point it down like this and I twist it around. And I try and get as close to the narrow end of the wand as I can. So hold it for probably 5 or 6 seconds. And then you can just go back in and redo any part of the curl that didn't work out too well. I look a little bit insane. Could you imagine if I went out like this? Okay, so do the same to the other side. Now, if you're right-handed like me, this side can be a little bit more tricky because you're trying to still get that same shape, but you're using your other hand. So I like to just twist it slightly first and then put it around the wand. Okay, now here's the trick. I don't curl my entire head and then do the hairspray. I do it section by section with the hairspray. So straight after I curl it, I get my hairspray and I You might think that that was a lot of hairspray, and you will be right, it is a lot of hairspray. But the goal is to get the hair hard. It's to get the hair crunchy, almost. I know that sounds terrible, but you have to use a lot of hairspray. And again, just trust the process with this, okay? And then you just repeat for all of the sections of your hair. I think this looks great. You just work through all the sections of your hair. You might be wondering why I'm sat in front of a fireplace. the truth is I couldn't find anywhere else to record. So here we are. Because this is my first video, I'm also going to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Maria. I'm Irish and I am studying law at the moment. I recently moved home to Ireland from Brussels in Belgium, which I know, very random. Don't ask me how I managed to get that traineeship. The applications must have been terrible that year. So I have a law degree, but I have a master's in global media and communications. And my traineeship was in the realm of communications. The official title was Traineeship in the Strategy and Innovation Unit of the European Parliamentary Research Services. I was there for 6 months. The traineeship was 5 months long, and then I stayed on a little bit extra. But yeah, I had a very interesting experience in Belgium, and I would definitely recommend living abroad to everybody in your 20s. Although it can be kind of lonely at times and a little bit difficult, you honestly learn so much about yourself and the world. Oh. Overall, I had a really good time in Belgium, and I met some of my best friends now, and I learned some more French. To be fair, the locals in Brussels are actually really nice. Sometimes you go to a country and the locals are kind of against tourists because they're sort of taking over the city. But everyone was so friendly and everyone was so willing to let you try to speak French. Which I really appreciated. To be honest, the most French I used was to order my coffee in the morning. Un cappuccino avec lait de menthe, s'il vous plaît. But I also just learned a lot. Obviously, being in the European Parliament was insane. It was so cool. And I was there during 2024, so I was there during the elections, even though it was actually super awkward because Ireland is one of the only countries that you can't do a mail-in ballot for the European elections. I was there trying to promote the elections and saying to everyone, use your vote, use your vote. And then it came to me and I actually was not allowed to vote because I was not living in Ireland. So that was kind of embarrassing. I have many embarrassing stories actually from the European Parliament. I felt very out of place. I had an amazing time and everyone was amazing, but I definitely had imposter syndrome. And I have many hilarious stories if anyone would like to hear them. I'm sure you're jumping up and down at the thought. There were about 16 or 20 trainees in my unit, and to be fair, everyone was actually really nice. You'd think that they'd be super competitive and snobby, but everyone was so lovely. One thing I definitely learned was a lot of the stereotypes from different European countries are very true. The Germans were always on time, everything was planned. The Italians used their hands a lot, and this isn't just me saying it, everyone said it themselves that we were all stereotypes of our country. And I was too, as a pale redhead from Ireland. So back to the hair. What I do next is let it all dry, let it all get nice and crunchy. Once you feel like it's all dried, the next thing you do is you separate the curls. So you just run your fingers through them like this and just separate them a bit. Again, you might look a little crazy, but trust the process. If you really hate the smell of hairspray, which it's intense, and especially when you're using a lot of it like I do, I actually put perfume in my hair. I don't know, is that weird? Once I have my hair ready to go, I turn my head upside down and I just do a few sprays of perfume, and I genuinely feel like it offsets the fumes from the hairspray. Or maybe I'm just in denial, but alas, we're gonna work through the hair and just separate everything out. But also Brussels is a very big city. I think with any big city comes crime and more dangers than you would have in a small town. So for example, there would be slightly more robberies. You would hear stories of some bad things happening. But me personally, I had a few experiences that were not ideal. For example, I was doing my grocery shop one day. I was going down one of the aisles and this man came over to me and he was speaking to me in French. Now, to be fair, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I was happy to talk to strangers. Don't talk to strangers. Stranger danger, okay? This man was speaking to me in French and he sort of cornered me with his trolley. I'm a very Irish girl, I'm very polite. I wouldn't want to be causing a fuss, so I felt a little bit uncomfortable. Some of the other people in the shop were kind of looking and wondering like, what's going on there? Eventually I managed to squeeze past his trolley, and as I was walking down one aisle, I looked over and I saw that he was following me, and he followed me all around the shop. Eventually I made it look like I was walking one way, and then I ran. And I kept running and I ran all the way home. That was definitely not the most fun experience. And also, when you don't understand the language fluently, there's an added element of danger. You know, if you're in a country that speaks your language, let's say you're walking down the street and someone shouts something at you or whatever, you know what they're saying. So you know if they're just being, stupid or if you're actually in danger. Whereas when you're not like a fluent speaker, and you're in another country, you don't know what they're saying. You don't know if you're in like imminent danger or not. I think I was just unlucky. But to be honest, like any major city is going to have a certain level of crime. And as long as you know like what areas to stay away from, you'll be fine. And if not, it's character building. You can be very resilient when you need to be. So back to the hair, I'm kind of looking like I have a judge's wig on. So the final step in this wonderful creation is to brush it out. Don't be scared, okay? If you're like me and you have very thin hair or very fine hair and your hair doesn't hold a curl, it's scary to brush your hair out because you think that it's going to make all the curls come out of your head. I promise you, it won't. You have so much hairspray in your hair that I promise you the curls will not come out. It'll look a lot more natural though. And that's what we're going for. You're brushing until you can't feel any hardness in your hair anymore. I feel like my hair is changing colour as I'm getting older. It's gotten very blonde. I have read somewhere that people with red hair don't go grey. Now, as you can see, the curls are definitely not being brushed out. They're very much there. They just look a little bit more natural. Can you see that? And like, it's nice and soft now. Sometimes I like to just flip my hair over my head and give it a bit of a shake. That's just me. So that's kind of the final look, I suppose. And this should definitely last like 24 hours, especially if you use as much hairspray as I do. So thanks for joining me, and I hope this was helpful for someone out there. And let me know what kind of videos you would like to see on this channel, if you would like to see any more videos on this channel. And if you enjoyed, I would love it if you would subscribe. I hope you have a great day, and if you don't, at least you had a great hair day. Bye!